ना है, दैट इज द बिग चैलेंज विद जर्मनी, बिकॉज अक्सर इंफॉर्मेशन बहुत कॉन्ट्रडिक्टरी होती है या एम्बिगुअस होती है, और उसमें बंदा स्टक हो जाता है कि मैंने कैसे काम करना है। So, just to introduce myself, my name is Ramsha. I've been working in the development sector for, I think it's been a while now, around 9 years. I graduated from NUST with a bachelor's, and then I did my master's in international development from the University of Warwick on a Commonwealth shared scholarship. Abhi, I'm doing my PhD in development research as a DAAD-EPOS scholar, so I'm very familiar with DAAD. I'm currently living in Germany. तो मेरा उस वजह से भी थोड़ा सा ज्यादा एक्सपीरियंस हो गया है विद रिगार्ड्स टू कि जर्मनी में हाउ डू थिंग्स वर्क आउट। अच्छा। सबसे पहले हम एक ओवरव्यू मैं देना चाहूंगी। अगर हम फुली फंडेड की को डिस्कस करते हैं तो फुली फंडेड का क्या मकसद होता है। आई नो कि ये सेशन बहुत बेसिक्स भी डिस्कस करेगा, बट उसका मकसद यही है कि आई रियली वांट टू कवर अ लॉट ऑफ द बेसिक्स विद दिस सेशन एज वेल। तो फुली फंडेड, अगर आपको कोई भी कह रहा है या कहीं पे भी लिखा हुआ है कि अच्छा भाई ये फुली फंडेड अपॉर्चुनिटी है, व्हाट दैट नेचुरली मीन्स इज कि आपका ट्यूशन भी कवर्ड है और आपकी लिविंग कॉस्ट भी कवर्ड है, और आपको अपने खुद से कोई भी कॉस्ट नहीं आएगी। लाइक आपने खुद कुछ भी नहीं स्पेंड करना। उसमें आपकी ट्रैवल, इंश्योरेंस, एडिशनल अलाउंसेस सारा कुछ कवर होता है, और उसमें आपने खुद कुछ भी नहीं पे करना होता। और हम दाद की बात करते हैं तो दाद यूजुअली एक फुली फंडेड स्कॉलरशिप होती है जिसमें आपका सारा कुछ कवर्ड होता है। दाद यूजुअली ट्यूशन नहीं कवर करती, बट जर्मनी में ट्यूशन, ज्यादातर यूनिवर्सिटीज का ट्यूशन है ही नहीं। सो ये है कि या तो वो ट्यूशन आपको अप्लाई ही नहीं होता, या अप्लाई हो रहा होता है तो किसी वजह से वेव हो जाता है। तो ये सारा चक्कर होता है अगर आप पब्लिक यूनिवर्सिटीज में मेजरली देख रहे हैं जर्मनी में। प्राइवेट यूनिवर्सिटीज की फी होती है, प्राइवेट यूनिवर्सिटीज यूजुअली दाद के अंदर कवर्ड नहीं होती। प्राइवेट यूनिवर्सिटीज एक बिल्कुल सेपरेट टॉपिक है। हम अभी पब्लिक यूनिवर्सिटीज को, उन यूनिवर्सिटीज को जिनका ट्यूशन फी नहीं है या बहुत कम है, उनको टारगेट कर रहे हैं। अच्छा, अब सबसे मेन जो क्वेश्चन मुझे आता है ना कि दाद है क्या और दाद को कैसे अप्लाई करना है। अगेन मैं इस पे यही चाहूंगी कि मैं आपको थोड़ा सा नेविगेट करना सिखाऊं कि आपने जो इन्फॉर्मेशन है ऑनलाइन अवेलेबल है उसको कैसे कंज्यूम करना है। अब दाद की वेबसाइट है, दाद पाकिस्तान की भी एक वेबसाइट है जिसपे बहुत क्लियरली डिस्क्राइब हुआ हुआ है कि पाकिस्तानी स्टूडेंट्स के लिए कौन कौन सी दाद स्कॉलरशिप्स एलिजिबल होती हैं। इसमें आपको एक पूरी लिस्ट मिल जाएगी। हम इनको वन बाय वन डिस्कस भी करेंगे कि आपने हर प्रोग्राम को कैसे अप्लाई करना है। अगर आप देखना चाह रहे हैं कि भाई एज अ पाकिस्तानी स्टूडेंट मैं कौन सी दाद स्कॉलरशिप्स पे अप्लाई कर सकता हूँ, दीज आर द ओनली स्कॉलरशिप्स दैट वी कैन अप्लाई फॉर। इसके अलावा और कोई स्कॉलरशिप नहीं है दाद की जिसपे पाकिस्तानी अप्लाई कर सके, क्योंकि वो पाकिस्तानी उसके लिए एलिजिबल नहीं होते। एक और स्ट्रीम है बहुत पॉपुलर जिसका नाम है दाद फॉर ऑल एकेडमिक डिसिप्लिन। वो अक्सर लोग बहुत डिसअपॉइंटेड होते हैं कि वो उस पे जाते हैं और वो कहते हैं कि भाई इस पे तो पाकिस्तान का नाम ही नहीं आ रहा, और आप कह रही हैं कि पाकिस्तानी दाद स्कॉलरशिप पे अप्लाई कर सकते हैं, उस पे तो हमारा नाम ही नहीं आता। फॉर एग्जांपल ये एक स्कॉलरशिप है, ये दाद की स्कॉलरशिप है जो कि हर एकेडमिक डिसिप्लिन पे अप्लाई होती है। अब जब आप यहाँ पे एकेडमिक प्रोसीजर करने की कोशिश करते हैं तो यहाँ पाकिस्तान का नाम ही नहीं है, क्योंकि ये वाली स्कॉलरशिप के लिए पाकिस्तान एलिजिबल नहीं है। लेकिन ये एक स्ट्रीम है दाद की। मास्टर स्टडीज फॉर ऑल एकेडमिक डिसिप्लिन इज वन स्ट्रीम विद इन द होल दाद अम्ब्रेला, जिसके एक वो स्कॉलरशिप है जिसके अंदर पाकिस्तानी नहीं अप्लाई कर सकते। बट ऑफ कोर्स हम उस पर फोकस करेंगे कि हम कहाँ अप्लाई कर सकते हैं। फिर अगर हम मास्टर्स की बात करें, सबसे पहले दाद ईपॉस आ जाता है। दाद ईपॉस इज द स्कॉलरशिप दैट आई एम ऑन। दाद ईपॉस के लिए जरूरी है कि आपके पास 2 साल का वर्क एक्सपीरियंस हो। 2 साल का वर्क एक्सपीरियंस, पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट वर्क एक्सपीरियंस मैंडेटरी है। पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट वर्क एक्सपीरियंस से मुराद ये है कि आपने ग्रेजुएट होने के बाद 2 साल काम किया हुआ हो। इस पे ये भी क्वेरी आती है कि अच्छा नहीं, मेरा 23 मंथ्स बन रहा है, मेरा 21 मंथ्स बन रहा है। इस पे ये कि दाद इज काइंड ऑफ स्ट्रिक्ट ऑन इट। अगर आप दिखा सको कि आपकी डिग्री पहले खत्म हो गई थी और आप तब से जॉब कर रहे हो, देन इट्स ऑल राइट। कि आप 24 दिखा दो कि 24 मंथ्स हो गया है मेरा एक्सपीरियंस। बट अगर उसमें सिग्निफिकेंट गैप आ रहा है और मतलब कि नेचुरली आपकी क्लासेस अभी खत्म ही नहीं हुई थी, आपका फुल टाइम यूनिवर्सिटी चल रही थी और आप कह रहे हो मैं तब जॉब भी फुल टाइम कर रहा था, और तब आप दिखाने की कोशिश करो कि आपका फुल टाइम एक्सपीरियंस हो गया, दैट्स नॉट गोइंग टू वर्क। सो यू हैव टू बी माइंडफुल अबाउट दैट कि वो शायद ना हो सके, और आपने उसकी रिक्वायरमेंट्स को उसी तरह गो थ्रू करना है। अच्छा। उसके बाद हमारे पास हेलमेट स्मिथ स्कॉलरशिप आ जाती है। हेलमेट स्मिथ वो स्कॉलरशिप है जो अभी करंटली ओपन होने वाली है। तो इफ एनीबडी इज इंटरेस्टेड इन पब्लिक पॉलिसी, गुड गवर्नेंस, डेवलपमेंट रिलेटेड कोर्सेज, सोशल प्रोटेक्शन, ये प्रोग्राम्स अभी ओपन होने वाले हैं फॉर नेक्स्ट ईयर। अगेन ये जो सारा सेशन है इसका सारा फोकस 2027 के ऊपर है। we're नॉट लुकिंग एट 2026 राइट नाउ। 2026 के लिए थोड़ा सा लेट हो गया है, कुछ प्रोग्राम्स ओपन भी होंगे, बट क्योंकि अभी मेजोरिटी उसके लिए एलिजिबल नहीं है या उसके लिए अप्लाई नहीं कर सकेगी, तो हम अभी 2027 पर ही फोकस करेंगे कि आप अगर 2027 में अपना मास्टर्स शुरू करना चाहते हैं तो आपको अभी इसका क्या करने की जरूरत है। हेलमेट स्मिथ का मैंने जिक्र किया। हेलमेट स्मिथ में 2 इयर्स का वर्क एक्सपीरियंस नहीं रिक्वायर्ड होता। हर प्रोग्राम की अपनी रिक्वायरमेंट होती है कि आपको कितना वर्क एक्सपीरियंस चाहिए, क्योंकि देखिए ये तो एक अम्ब्रेला स्कॉलरशिप है। हर स्कॉलरशिप के अंदर, हर स्ट्रीम के अंदर भी फिर अपनी रिक्वायरमेंट्स हैं। उन रिक्वायरमेंट्स को भी एडिशनली सेपरेटली अंडरस्टैंड करना बहुत जरूरी है। I can try and go over a few requirements just to give you an idea. हम ईपॉस की बात कर रहे थे, ठीक है। अब ईपॉस किसी भी दात स्ट्रीम के लिए आप इस वाले पेज पे जाते हो, जो ये फाइंडिंग स्कॉलरशिप से आप उसको व्यू कर सकते हो। यू कैन ऑल्सो गूगल इट, यू कैन जस्ट राइट द होल नेम एंड देन ट्राई टू कम टू दिस पेज जहाँ पे ये इस फॉर्मेट में इंफॉर्मेशन आपको अवेलेबल हो, क्योंकि ये वो इन्फॉर्मेशन है जहाँ आपको सारा कुछ एक जगह पे मिलेगा। अब क्योंकि ये खत्म हो चुकी हुई है तो अभी आप यहाँ पे एप्लीकेशन जो आगे वाला सबमिट वगैरह वाला टैब नहीं आ रहा। हाउएवर ईपॉस के अंदर एक लिस्ट होती है स्कॉलरशिप्स की। आप सिर्फ उस स्कॉलरशिप लिस्ट के अंदर अप्लाई कर सकते हो। यू कांट अप्लाई टू ऑल प्रोग्राम्स, यू कांट अप्लाई टू प्रोग्राम्स दैट आर नॉट पार्ट ऑफ द लिस्ट। उसमें यह है कि मैं आपको लिस्ट भी दिखा देती हूँ। ये पिछले साल की है, अभी अगले साल के लिए अपडेट नहीं हुई, बट इंशाल्लाह हो जाएगी जल्दी। तो अगर हम लिस्ट की बात करें तो लिस्ट ऐसी लगती है, ठीक है। इसमें डिफरेंट डिसिप्लिन हैं। इसमें बिजनेस एडमिन भी है, डेवलपमेंट भी है, इंजीनियरिंग भी है, अर्बन प्लानिंग, एग्रीकल्चरल, नेचुरल साइंसेज, पब्लिक हेल्थ के काफी अच्छे प्रोग्राम्स हैं। तो मीडिया स्टडीज का बहुत अच्छा प्रोग्राम है। दिस इज व्हाट द लिस्ट लुक्स लाइक। और फिर हर लिस्ट की, टू बी एलिजिबल फॉर दैट स्कॉलरशिप देयर इज अ सेपरेट डेडलाइन, और उस डेडलाइन को आपने नोट करके रखना है। उसको, उसके लिए माइंडफुल होना है, बिकॉज उसको फिर आप, लाइक देयर इज नो वे टू सर्कमवेंट दैट। ऐसा नहीं हो सकता कि आपकी डेडलाइन मिस हो गई, आप बाद में यूनिवर्सिटी को अप्लाई कर दो। आप सेल्फ फाइनेंस के लिए बाद में भी अप्लाई कर सकोगे, लेकिन अगर आप स्कॉलरशिप के लिए अप्लाई करना चाह रहे हो तो आपको इसी विंडो में अप्लाई करना है जिसमें उन्होंने बताया है। और जरूरी है कि आप टाइम से पहले अप्लाई करो, डेडलाइन बंद होने से पहले अप्लाई करो, ताकि आपकी अपनी अच्छी एप्लीकेशन क्रिएट हो सके। ये हो गया। रिक्वायरमेंट्स भी अगर हम देखना चाहें तो यहाँ पे पाकिस्तान आ जाता है, क्योंकि पाकिस्तान एलिजिबल है स्कॉलरशिप के लिए। हम उसको शो रिक्वायरमेंट्स करते हैं तो आपको बता देगा कि इस स्कॉलरशिप पे एलिजिबल होने के लिए आपको क्या क्या चाहिए। एक और क्वेश्चन बहुत ज्यादा आता है कि जी मुझे तो जर्मन नहीं आती, तो मैं जर्मनी में कैसे पढूं। उसका रीजन ये है दैट यू डोंट नेसेसरली नीड टू नो जर्मन इन ऑर्डर टू अप्लाई टू Germany, because most programs, most master's programs are in English. Of course, there will be a lot of German programs as well, but what we'll do is we'll not opt for them. I just realized that we do have non-Pakistani students in the, yeah, in the session as well. So I'll try to speak in English. But yeah, remind me if I switch back to Urdu again. So yeah, so you have to be very mindful about the requirements of the program. Language is usually not required. If you're applying for a German program, then naturally German will be required. But you can just like not apply for German programs and just opt for English programs where German is not required. Okay, so if you look at the application deadlines, like the PDF I showed you, depends on each respective program. You can't have one solid deadline. There will be different deadlines for each program. Again, we're still discussing EPOS. We haven't moved to another DAAD stream. And these are all of the things that you require in order to apply for an EPOS scholarship. Also, you can apply to multiple DAAD scholarships as well. You can apply for Helmut Schmidt and EPOS. You can apply for some other stream and another stream, and that's not an issue. However, it's very important to be very mindful of the list that is mentioned here, and ensure that all of these documentation all of these documents are completed on time, and they're done how they have asked you to do. For example, if they've given you instructions on the one letter of motivation, you have to ensure that you follow this instruction. And these are the only instructions that do matter. Universities can have their own requirements, but those will be additional requirements. These are the set of documents that will absolutely go when you're applying for the scholarship. And if you want to apply to a certain program and they're asking for anything in it, additional to this list, तो वो फिर additional आएगा. Okay. And then we can move to, yeah. हमने दादी पॉस को डिस्कस कर लिया है. Before I move on to the other ones, I'll just like try to go give an overview of the rest. Another question that we get a lot is, do we need to come back to our home country once we've done the DAAD scholarship? No, you don't need to return. Um, there is no requirement that binds you to return. However, my own experience on the EPOS scholarship and just interacting with Helmut Schmidt scholars has been that there is a notion that you should return back because the entire focus of these scholarships is to enhance regional cooperation, development cooperation between Germany and Pakistan, and that sort of only works if you return and work for the country. However, like it's not a legally binding requirement that you need to uh, come back. Okay. Another question, okay, where should you start if you're looking to apply to Germany? So just a very generic checklist that you need to first make a list of your preferences and backgrounds. Which scholarships do you want to apply for? Which programs do you want to apply for? Which programs are you eligible for? Another thing that I would be very mindful of if applying for Germany is that each university has a very different requirement and they're very particular about what they need from you in order for you to be eligible. For example, like a lot of people feel like if they've done like a CS degree and now they want to do like a management degree from Germany, they will be eligible. But it could be that you don't have the prerequisite management courses required to get into the program. So it's very important to, double check that even if you like a program, are you eligible or not? So that tends to be very important. It's important to also look at the entry requirements, like if there are any IELTS requirements, any other test requirements that needs to be done in advance. A lot of programs for management related courses do require GRE GMAT for Pakistani candidates. So you want to make sure that that's something that you have in mind and that's part of your roadmap before you start applying for Germany. And then you can research relevant programs. A general list of documents will look like this for applying to DAAD. Again, this is not applying to universities. This is applying for scholarships, which is the DAAD scholarship, which is tenable in Germany. So you'll have the checklist. There's an application form that you can find on the website. There's a Europass CV. And we will also be discussing the Europass CV towards the end. So, that can be done. There's a letter of motivation. हम letter of motivation को भी discuss कर लेंगे. There's letters of recommendation from your current employer, certificates of employment from your employers to highlight the work that you've done, the proof of language skills, copies of higher education degrees. Another question is that do we need HEC attestation? No, you do not. However, the requirements change very quickly for Germany. Like HEC attested documentation was mandatory up until I think the last 2.5 years, and then it wasn't. But some universities will still ask you to submit HEC attested copies, which is why it's a good idea that before you get into it, you just get everything attested beforehand by HEC. No other attestation is required, no MOFA attestation is required, because it'll just smooth out the entire process for you because you'll know that everything, like document wise, is already done and you can just proceed with applying to the universities once that is done. EPOS we've already discussed. I also want to discuss DAAD Helmut Schmidt a little bit. So DAAD Helmut Schmidt is for master scholarships in public policy and good governance. Last year they had around 7 eligible programs. Not sure how many will be eligible for now, but we can also go over the website once just to give you an idea on how to navigate this one. So you have everything here. They have the checklist, the application form, the list of eligible countries, all of that. If you want to check the application procedure, again, you can enter your country, you can check graduates, and then it'll show you. Because it's not open, so it's not going to show a lot of information. But yeah, all of the information will be here. So the deadline, whatever is needed to apply, it will be available there. This is from last year. This is their PDF. You can find the list of programs that were eligible last year. So we had social protection, development and governance, public policy, peace, conflict, management in nonprofit, development and governance and public policy. So these were the programs that were eligible under DAAD Helmut Schmidt last year. The only requirement for this scholarship was that you need to have some sort of professional experience, but how much professional experience will depend on each of these universities. For example, if you're applying for the Willy Brandt School, which is a very popular school for public policy, their requirement is that you need to have 1 year of full-time experience. Whereas if you apply to any other program, they probably might not have that strict of a requirement. You can get away with like having some volunteer work, 6 months of experience, 4 months of experience, and that should be fine. So, like I said, that if you're looking to get information on any DAAD related scholarship, make sure you're on the DAAD website because I feel like most of the questions that I answer with regards to Germany is that, people sending me links from random websites called Scholarship Opportunity, Scholarship Circle, Scholarship Desk, Opportunity Desk, and it just does not have the right information because you open that page and it tells you that applications are open 12 months of the year and you don't need anything, you don't need IELTS, you don't need to pay anything, and you can just apply, and there is no link to apply. So just be very mindful of where you're getting your information. If you're looking to get information on the DAAD scholarship, make sure you're on the DAAD website because that is the only place you will get all of the information that is valid and true and fact checked. Otherwise, you'll just be running around in circles and it'll be very difficult for you to understand कि apply करना कैसे है. So just make sure you're on the right website. DAAD Helmut Schmidt deadlines are usually earlier. The deadlines last year were in July to August. So we're expecting that the deadlines for this year will also be in July to August. We have a lot of experience with DAAD Helmut Schmidt. We have at least one DAAD Helmut Schmidt scholar from like our clients each year. So that's something that's really exciting for us. And it's a really, really exciting scholarship for somebody, who does not have a lot of experience, but is very interested in development related courses. So that can be understood. You also have the hyperlinks here. You can just go to the link once I share the PDF with you. I will be sharing the PDF plus the recording with you via email. So you can just go over that after the call. EPOS we've already discussed. One of the things that I've just sort of highlighted here is that for some DAAD scholarships, the requirement is that your degree must not be more than 6 years old. There are some there is some leniency. For example, if you're a mother and you have one child or you have multiple child and you spent X amount of years caring for those children, you can get some leniency with this 6-year rule. So it could be that you can apply even after 9 years because you had like 3 children and you were looking after them and all of that. So there is some leniency with regards to this. However, I believe that it is still kind of limited. It applies to moms only who have had kids and had, childcare responsibilities. Okay, for DAAD-EPOS also we have the links that I discussed. So these you can go over, take a look. Like I said, these haven't been updated for the next year, but they will be updated soon. I would also recommend going over the FAQs. That will also give you like a lot of clarity on how to apply for this particular program. Okay, so application process kya hai? How do you apply to all of these programs? So each DAAD program has a specific process to follow. For example, you can't be like, oh, I've understood DAAD-EPOS. I know how to apply to Helmut Schmidt as well. I know how to apply for PhD. I know how to apply for, some other stream because it will be entirely different than what's required. So make sure that you go over the listed programs, what they require from you and what DAAD requires from you, and then you can apply based on the criteria that they've mentioned on their website. Because for each scholarship, it's going to change. For some scholarships, they will ask you to apply via the DAAD portal, and for some programs, they're going to ask you to apply directly to the university and not apply to DAAD at all. I do want to discuss another type of DAAD scholarship as well, which is the scholarship in the field of architecture. So this is one area that a lot of people are not familiar with. कि DAAD में Germany में architecture की बहुत अच्छी scholarships हैं. You can also apply for programs like urban planning and stuff. And there's also a lot of programs in design, fine arts. Not only this scholarship, but there is another scholarship that sort of caters to that. That one is this one. So in the field of fine arts, design, visual communication, and film, there are a lot of good programs. There are a lot of good scholarships with regards to these subjects. The method to apply to these is a little bit different. So we'll go over the application procedure for these also just briefly, just so you get an idea on how to sort of navigate this. So for the architecture and fine arts fields, even the PhD, so the PhD also has a similar process. You'll have the date here, the last date that you can apply. Again, this hasn't been updated for this year. It will be soon. So the deadline we can assume will be somewhere around September as well for the other programs. And for these scholarships, the PhD, the architecture, the fine arts, all of these programs, the requirement is that you apply to that separately and you apply to the university separately. So what happens is that in with this scholarship, you're only applying for funding. So you're only applying for funding to to that, that you've secured admission or that you will secure admission, and that you're only asking for funding for the said program. And they're not responsible for getting you admitted to the program. That will be like a parallel process that you do in parallel, which is why you'll find that there's a form here on which you can mention your desired programs, which you will apply to at a later time. For PhD, it is important that you apply to these programs beforehand. Like, so if the DAAD PhD deadline is somewhere in September, it would be a good idea to have supervisor acceptances or like acceptances from the program before September. Or at least have some sort of communication with them so they can sort of confirm whether you should mention their university, their program in this list. So all of that is streamlined. The list of requirements is here. These programs also require a portfolio. However, portfolio happens in the second phase. First, you apply to the DAAD portal, you upload all of your documents. Once that phase is done, then they send you another link like a few weeks down the lane, and then you can upload your portfolio as well. But like I said, that happens at a later stage. It does not happen at this stage. So this is the process for like a different set of DAAD scholarships. Also want to look into the Europass CV. So for the Europass CV, there is a website that you use, and it's their official website, and that is the website I always recommend to be used, because there's no point in editing it, and because there's so much editing that is needed, and also you can check out on how to sort of add all the sections. There is not a lot with there's not a strict requirement with regards to how long a Europass CV can be. It tends to be longer than usual because the formatting is a little off. So you'll find that, some spots are just very empty, and which is why your Europass CV can be up to like 5 pages. But um, as long as you have important information on there, you can just go ahead with that. Um, with regards to what you can put in the CV, so you'll find all of the sections that go in the Europass CV on the website. Just a few things that I would like to point out is that make job descriptions impact oriented by highlighting specific achievements. So a lot of people end up doing is that they just put their JD in the CV. So they'll just be like coordinated between different departments. That's not really impact. That's not an achievement. That is just your JD. They're not interested in your JD in the CV. They're interested in your achievement. They're interested in the impact that you created. So you want to make sure that you focus on the results, focus on the impact, and focus on what you did, not what was expected of you and what was like the general running of the job. For example, if you just look at like an example that if you want to highlight, you want to make sure that you mention the programs or the projects that you were working with, ensure that there are numbers that are present in the CV so they can get an idea of the scope of the work that you were doing. It could be that you were responsible for a huge region, but they wouldn't know that unless you add that in the description. So make sure that your CV, the Europa CV, has a lot of quantifiable information when you're giving like job descriptions. Okay, references is also one part that a lot of people get stuck on. So, if we talk about the kind of references that DAAD requires, there are usually two types of references, and they're both required. One is work experience proof. So this is just you proving that you have the required experience that the program needs. So for example, program needs 6 months, you need to show them that you've worked 6 months. So you can give one letter, you can give three letters, depending on how long each duration was for that particular experience. And these are the things that must be in the reference. Again, this doesn't need to be super recent because this does not need to be written for the scholarship. This can be just like an experience letter or like an appointment letter that specifies that you work from this date to this date, so that the duration of that program and the work that you did, like a brief description of that, is clarified. So that is work experience proof, which is only to prove that you meet the eligibility requirement of like so and so years and that you're eligible for the program. Number two is what's tricky. So number two is the letter of recommendation from your current employer. So this is the one that carries more weightage in terms of, like, this is not just for eligibility, this is a requirement. So they want to understand what your work situation is, how long you worked for that current organization, what work you do. And like I mentioned, the whoever you ask to write you a letter, they need to describe the projects and the programs that you worked on with very clear outcomes. So it's important that they mention that, that you led a team in a new marketing strategy that resulted in a 20% sales increase. So it has like a lot of quantifiable information. Again, it doesn't need to be scattered. There needs to be a central theme, but I'm sure if you're asking somebody to write a letter for you, they will be equipped enough to do that for you and not mess that up. Baki cheez I've just mentioned here, it should be on the letterhead. If there's a stamp, that should be provided, and it needs to be a current employer. Um, they do not necessarily contact the referees again, but for some programs, it could be that they'll ask you to share the email and they will ask for confirmation or for the letter to be sent again via that official email. Okay. In terms of timelines, just to give you an idea on when the deadlines are for all of these art scholarships. So Helmut Schmidt, like I mentioned, is usually end of July. Architecture is September. Fine arts is end of November. Performing arts, field of music, these are usually at the end of October. EPOS, like we discussed, this one, where did it go? Yeah, this one. So this has varying deadlines. There is no one deadline. You can see that the deadlines are all over the place. So you'll need to look into the right program that you want to do and then come up and look into the right deadline for the said scholarship. Yeah, I also wanted to talk about volunteer work because this is something that even like people with the best profile don't have this. Volunteer work is a very important part of any scholarship application. Again, I'm not going to say that it's mandatory, so it's like you cannot get into a good program if you don't have volunteer work. However, I feel like it exponentially increases your chances. The reason for that is that they're looking. So if you look at what DAAD is all about, most scholarships that DAAD is offering is very development cooperation, very public policy, very development, very community, very social engagement oriented. And if you can prove that you are an individual who has, who is in touch with the community that they belong to and other communities and has worked for them and intends to continue doing that, your story will be more believable if you've done that work. If you've never done any volunteer work and your entire essay and your entire application is about how you want to work for this one community in Pakistan or for this one community in somewhere else in the world, it's not going to resonate that well with the committee because they'll be like, if you're so passionate, how come you've never done any community work any time in your life? So that tends to make the story a little less believable. So you want to make sure that you're using your time well and you're investing in, volunteering, having some community engagement experience, having social engagements, because that will help you build up, those soft skills needed to really get you through the finish line. Because I'll be honest, like most of the people that apply for that scholarships already have great profiles, and like it's very difficult to differentiate what that defining moment is. But when you're applying for scholarships, I feel like you should not leave any stone unturned. Your goal should be to do everything you possibly can in order to get the scholarship. And like I will stress on this a little bit. Again, I'm going to switch to Urdu for a little bit. वो ये कि लाइक ज्यादातर लोग यही कहते हैं कि मुझे चाहिए स्कॉलरशिप और मतलब उसके लिए काफी वो डेस्परेट होंगे, परेशान भी होंगे, बताएंगे भी कि भाई बहुत जरूरी है मेरे लिए, ये मसला चल रहा है, मुझे स्कॉलरशिप चाहिए, मुझे ये करना है, मैं बहुत पैशनेट हूँ. एंड देन व्हेन दे प्रोवाइडेड वेरी क्लियर स्टेप्स कि आपको वॉलंटियर वर्क थोड़ा सा बेहतर करना चाहिए, आपको रिसर्च का थोड़ा सा एक्सपीरियंस लेना चाहिए, आप ये ऑनलाइन कोर्सेज देखो, ये आपके प्रोफाइल को बिल्ड करने में हेल्प करेंगे, वो उसमें से कुछ भी नहीं करते और वो सिंपली ये कह देते हैं कि मेरी तो जॉब है, जॉब के साथ कुछ भी मैनेज करना बहुत मुश्किल है. ऑफ कोर्स ये बात बिल्कुल सच है कि जॉब के साथ चीजें मैनेज करना डिफिकल्ट होता है, but I feel like that can't be an excuse that you use to not work on yourself because scholarships are competitive. You have to be like within the top 1%, 0.1% in order to get a scholarship. Again, I'm not trying to discourage you, I'm just trying to tell you what are you up against, and there will be people who will be putting in that effort. So अगर आपके जहन में ये excuse है कि because I'm working I cannot do more in order to build my profile, because ये वो टाइम है अपने प्रोफाइल को बिल्ड करने के लिए। अभी डेडलाइंस कोई भी नहीं ओपन। अभी डेडलाइंस में टाइम है आपके पास, अच्छे 2-3 महीने हैं। आपने आइल्स करना है, जीआरई करना है, जीमैट करना है, वॉलंटियर वर्क करना है, रिसर्च करनी है, आपने कोर्सेज करने हैं ऑनलाइन, आपको जॉब एक्सपीरियंस चाहिए। दिस इज द टाइम टू बिल्ड दैट and make sure that you apply with a strong profile rather than just relying on कि भाई बाकी लोग भी नहीं कर रहे होंगे तो मैं भी ना करूँ, and that's just gonna work. So make sure that you do that. Um, just some don'ts. Don't use the same application for multiple scholarships. It does not work. It's not a good idea. Now that we're already talking about it, like you really need to be putting in the effort. Like one of the things again that I routinely hear from clients and people otherwise is that I don't have the time to work on my essays. I don't have the time to apply for scholarships. And then like the simple answer from me would be then you don't deserve it, right? Because like I said, there are people who are, working full time, doing other engagements, and then, there's like midnight to 2 a.m. they're working on their scholarship. So you need to block out a time every day or at least like 4 times a week that you spend only on your scholarship applications, and you ensure that you do nothing else during that time. That time is sacred. You can't have family commitments during that time. You can't have social engagements during that time. It's important that you focus on the work at hand. And I would say that you can't wing it. You can't be like, oh, I've just applied to one program and then, I'll just use that application for other programs. Or I'll just apply to this one program and then, just pray that I get into that one program. It's not going to happen. आपको अपनी choices expand करनी है. आपको अपनी opportunities देख के एक्सपैंड करनी है। आप ये नहीं कर सकते कि आप एक जगह अप्लाई करके सोचें कि मैं और कहीं नहीं अप्लाई करूंगा। जरूरी है कि आप अंडरस्टैंड करें कि किस तरह का प्रोसेस है, और एक दफा प्रोसेस को अंडरस्टैंड करके अप्लाई टू मोर प्लेसेस। वर्ड लिमिट्स हैं, फॉर्मेटिंग रिक्वायरमेंट्स हैं, मेक श्योर दैट यू फॉलो देम टू द टी। देयर इज नो लीनियंसी इन स्कॉलरशिप, सो इफ they've asked for 1100 words, do not submit 1200 words. They're not going to read the last 100. They're just going to cut it off, and if the story does not make sense, then that's not their problem. Just make sure that you're following the rules and don't wait until the last minute to submit your application. Most portals stop functioning at the end. This has been true time and again. आपने आखिरी दिन भी अप्लाई नहीं करना, आपने आखिरी दिन से पिछले दिन अप्लाई करना है। You want to make sure that तब तक आपकी application हो जाए, because the portal will stop working and then you'll have everything and you wouldn't be able to submit. And like I said, scholarship committees do tend to get quite ruthless at this time. Even if it's their fault, it could be that they're just like, sorry, we cannot reopen and apply next year. So you don't want that for yourself. Um, Another thing to sort of look at, for any, again, this is true for any scholarship, but like for DAAD also, before you start applying, you need to answer these 3 questions on like a rough paper, and you need to define what your gap is. So, a misconception that we tend to have is that when we're applying for scholarships, the scholarship committees are very interested in us. They're interested in you, no doubt, but they're only interested in you up until, like yeah, sorry, I don't know. I think it got disconnected for a bit. Yeah, sorry. So what I was talking about was that it's important that you have the gap figured out. By gap, what I mean is the field that you're working in. What are the challenges that are currently being faced in that field, and how do you intend to address them? And they need to be bigger, but they also need to be very specific. So a lot of people just tend to go with, oh, I want to solve education out of school children in Pakistan. I want to improve healthcare service delivery in Pakistan. I want to work on women empowerment. These are goals, but like they're so generic that your statement will not be read a second time. So it's important that whatever field you're applying to, you are familiar with the technical phrases, the technical requirements of that field, what's going on, what the current research looks like. आप जिस मुल्क से हैं उसकी क्या requirements, you want to make sure that all of that research, like very academic, journal related research is done. You can't rely on just your own instincts to provide a gap. It needs to be backed by research. फिर आपका goal क्या है? What do you like against that gap? What is it that you want to do? And then how will that be executed? What are your short-term goals, medium-term goals, long-term goals? ChatGPT is a very good resource to figure that out, but you cannot use ChatGPT to create the entire thing for you, because ये बात भी बहुत लोग भूल जाते हैं कि अगर आप चैट जीपीटी यूज कर रहे हैं तो और भी बहुत ज्यादा लोग चैट जीपीटी यूज कर रहे हैं, या क्लॉड, या whatever whatever एआई टूल यू यूज। सो अगर आप अपनी इंसाइट्स नहीं ऐड करें, जो आपकी पर्सनल इंसाइट्स हैं, जो आपको अपने काम से मिली हैं, तो आपका जो ऐसे है या आपका जो गैप है, जो इन्फॉर्मेशन है, वो वैसा ही लगेगा जैसे बाकी उन लोगों का लग रहा है जो अपनी इनसाइट नहीं ऐड करे। So then it will be very difficult to find you in the pool of scholarships. You'll just be like another application that they're not going to read again. So make sure that you're utilizing your brain as well as the personal insights that you have, the professional insights that you have into the work that you want to do. And you're not relying on just an AI engine to tell you what the gaps are in that field and how you want to address them, because they need to be feasible and they need to be realistic. And that can only be done if you belong to that field and understand the requirements of that field. So that's very, very, very important. Nothing important here. I did want to discuss another part, which was how to apply to Germany for admission, right? So I'll open the website as well. So to apply for admissions in Germany, you mostly apply through a portal called UniAssist. Okay, so UniAssist is a portal that has around 170, 180 German universities on there. As an international degree holder, so if your degree is from Pakistan, chances are that you will be required to apply via UniAssist, and you cannot like apply directly to the university. Unisys does charge you a fee. I think the first application is like 75 euros, and each subsequent application is like 30 euros, but you do need to pay that fee in order to be considered for admission. So like I mentioned, for example, you're applying for DAAD architecture or DAAD fine arts, and you need to then apply for the programs as well. So the programs will then incur a fee on you, which is like the application fee, the fee that I just mentioned. ट्यूशन फी जरूरी नहीं है उसकी हो, बट जो एप्लीकेशन फी है वो आपने पे करनी होगी, एंड दैट्स समथिंग दैट यू नीड टू बी माइंडफुल ऑफ, कि फुली फंडेड स्कॉलरशिप्स आर रेयरली एवर फ्री। आई नो द कॉन्सेप्ट इज कि आपको खुद से कुछ भी नहीं स्पेंड करना पड़ेगा, एंड दैट इज ट्रू, लाइक फॉर मोस्ट पार्ट यू वुडंट बी स्पेंडिंग मच, बट इट इज बाय नो मीन्स like an easy or a cheap process to apply for a fully funded scholarship. ऐसी भी बहुत है जिसमें आपको कुछ नहीं करना पड़ता, बट ऐसी भी बहुत है जिसमें आपको काफी स्पेंड करना पड़ जाएगा। जिस तरह अगर आप यूनिसिस में 3 प्रोग्राम्स में भी अप्लाई कर रहे हैं, 70, 30 + 30, दैट्स लाइक अ गुड 100, 120 euros that you will be spending on your just admissions, and with no guarantee of a scholarship. And like IELTS is also going to cost you. If you do GRE, GMAT, that is also going to cost you. तो अब अगर हम देखें कि हमने यूनिवर्सिटीज को डायरेक्टली अप्लाई कैसे करना होता है, हाउ डू वी डायरेक्टली अप्लाई टू द यूनिवर्सिटी, व्हाट वी डू इज वी गो टू यूनिअसिस्ट, and then we try to figure out कि कौन सी term है जिसके लिए हमने अप्लाई करना है. You have to understand that only the terms that are open will show here. अगर वो term open नहीं है तो वो probably show नहीं होगी. Yeah, so we can also look at summer semester. uh I'm just adding like random more just so we can at least move to the next step, and that'll give you a list of programs that are currently open, or programs that you can apply for. Sorry, I just reset it. So yeah, there's only one type of course. I This will allow you to apply to all of the engineering courses, just to give you an idea. So यहाँ से आप इसको डालते हो, सिलेक्ट करते हो, और फिर आप देखते हो कि आपके कार्ट में आ जाता है, सो देयर लाइक अ कार्ट, जिस तरह हम शॉपिंग कर रहे होते हैं ऑनलाइन, देयर इज लाइक दिस कार्ट वेयर which is your selection list, and the required program then comes to your selection list. उसमें there are two things that you need to do. You need to upload your documents, and you need to answer mandatory questions. So with these two things, and then you apply to UniSys, and that application is done. So yeah, the first application is 75 euros. Each subsequent application will be less. The mandatory questions are pretty simple. They're just about your university and school. So आपको सिर्फ वो information enter करनी है. Documents depends on what the university requires from you. So here they'll have like a big list. Doesn't mean that you need to upload all of them. You just have to upload the documents that are required by that university. For example, हमने जो यूनिवर्सिटी यहाँ पे डाली है, हम देखेंगे कि जो हॉट स्कूल है 21 है, उसकी क्या रिक्वायरमेंट है. यू जस्ट लाइक वो लिस्ट हम यहाँ पे फिर अपलोड करने की कोशिश करेंगे. दैट विल बी आवर ओनली प्रायोरिटी, एंड दैट्स हाउ यू अप्लाई डायरेक्टली टू प्रोग्राम्स इन जर्मनी. And there are a few universities that don't use UNISYST, and you can apply directly, but they're quite limited. Uni of Bonn doesn't, Stuttgart doesn't, Goethe University in Frankfurt doesn't. Um, but for most of them, you'll either need to apply through UniAssist for the VPD, or you'll need to do your entire process through UniAssist, which is why it's important that अगर आप जर्मनी में apply करना चाह रहे हैं, that you be familiar with the options. एक और चीज जो है वो ये कि अगर हमने देखना है कि फिर अब जर्मनी में प्रोग्राम्स होते किस तरह के हैं, तो उनको हम किस तरह से ढूंढ सकते हैं. I am just opening that website. So DAAD की website बहुत अच्छा resource है just to figure out the kind of programs that you want to apply for. For example, अब मैं देखना चाह रही हूँ कि मैंने apply करना है winter semester में 2027 के लिए, और मुझे कंप्यूटर साइंस में अप्लाई करना है, मास्टर्स में अप्लाई करना है, ठीक है. मैंने इंग्लिश, सिर्फ इंग्लिश पढ़नी है. आई डोंट वांट टू स्टडी जर्मन. And then I also have the option to select the city. I also have the option to select programs with no fees. And then you have this very nice portal that allows you to go over the programs. Here you can see that the program specifies that there is no tuition fee. That means that there is, you can essentially apply for it and not have to pay a tuition fee. However, the blocked account will still be a requirement. So if you don't get a scholarship, if you're not funded by that, you do need to show a blocked account, which is around 12,000 euros. That's money that you put in a German blocked account that is released to you each month. So it's not money that you're giving to a university or a government. It is still your money that you will have access to, but it's money that you need to show and put in a bank account before you go. And it's required before the visa, like way before the visa. So if you're thinking of doing self-finance, or if self-finance is somewhat on the agenda, you want to make sure that that amount is something that you have access to and can quickly be sent to a German blocked account for processing if needed. So this is how it usually goes. If I were to conclude and to give you an idea, if you want to apply for that but are unsure if your program will be funded, for example, computer science is not funded under DAAD. There is like this one DAAD scholarship that's called DAAD Sikai that covers artificial intelligence, or yeah, computer science related programs, but that's pretty much it. Um, उसके अलावा there's not a lot of funding for technical courses. There are no engineering related programs. The engineering programs that they're more like water related, again, development related, environment related. Health has a lot of scholarships. Development has a lot of scholarships. Development research has scholarships. There are a few management courses here and there, but there is like not a very MBA, like a very traditional MBA. There is an MBA which is like for small enterprises. So if you have experience with small enterprises, you can apply for that MBA. That's a part of DAAD-EPOS. That can be targeted, but like overall, with that, your options are limited because unlike other countries, Pakistanis cannot apply to any program under DAAD. They have to look at the programs that are available for Pakistanis with this list, and that is what they have to go ahead with. So, and for PhDs, there's like this whole other situation, but I want to focus on masters for this call. If you feel like you have more questions, you can reach out to us. Our email is, yeah. Our email is actually hello at Ramsha's Consulting, and you can send in your queries. I would really request that अगर आपका पास कोई भी सवाल है that you want to discuss your profile, we are very mindful with the information that we provide, and we try to like not just refer you to having to book a session with us in order to get information. But my only requirement is that you need to give me information. If you come to me and tell me I have this much CGPA, can I apply for that? I'll be like, I don't know. आप वेबसाइट देख लें, आप सेशन बुक कर लें कि हम सारा आपका पहले आपसे डेटा लें, and then we can tell you if you're eligible or not. If you want me to like tell you if you're a good fit or not, if you have other questions, please अपना पूरा प्रोफाइल अच्छे से explain करें पहले, अपनी requirements, अपनी priorities, अपना budget, किस साल आप जाना चाह रहे हैं, वो सारी चीजें अच्छे से लिखेंगे तो मुझे पता होगा. वरना अगर मुझे हाफ ईमेल आएगा तो मैं उसको जवाब नहीं देना चाहूंगी, या मैं कहूंगी कि आप सेशन बुक कर लो, फिर आपकी चीजें हम डायरेक्टली आपसे पूछेंगे, फिर आपको बताएंगे. Because like with half information, there's not much I can do. There's also another question that how can we help you? So like I mentioned, we do one-on-one sessions. Our one-on-one sessions are actually currently discounted. So usually one-on-one session is 7,500, but it's currently 5,000, but we only have like a few slots left. So if you're interested in pursuing your master's or PhD in Germany for 2027, I would really recommend that you book a session soon, because now is the time जब आप इन सारी चीजों को कर सकते हो और आपके पास टाइम है सब कुछ मैनेज करने के लिए. If you reach out in October, half of the programs would already be closing, or there wouldn't be enough time for us to be able to work with you, because by September we close all intakes for all scholarships, because then we're fully booked. So again, like if you want to get insight, even if you want to work on the application on your own, I think that's also a good idea. If you feel like you get the hang of it soon enough, I would recommend that you do start early. Another thing we do is essay review. So if you've compiled something, you've written an essay, you finalized it, and you want somebody to like sort of review it for you and refine it for you, that's something that we do during the essay reviews. There is also end-to-end assistance. So end-to-end is more like long term. So we will work together for like 7-8 months. End-to-end can be for admission. So you can be like, I want to apply for 6 German universities, and like we can decide the universities together. We'll help you with everything start to finish. Just to be clear, we do not write the application for you and we do not submit the application on your behalf. Our goal is not to spoon feed you. Our goal is not to work as an agent and tell you कि, oh, हम आपकी तरफ से सब कर देंगे और आपको कुछ भी नहीं पता क्या हो रहा है. That is not how admissions work, and that is not how scholarships work. That is just one way to sort of keep you dependent on a counselor. If I work with you on one scholarship or one program, my goal would be to ensure that I teach you enough कि आपको दूसरे प्रोग्राम में मेरी जरूरत ना पड़े. So my entire focus is on teaching you how to do it and to giving you the confidence on learning how to write, what to write, and how to present your information in the best possible way, with consultation and with counseling from people who have the right experience and who can actually guide you on how to polish your profile. But like I said, हम लिखेंगे नहीं और हम submit नहीं कराएंगे. और if I can give any advice, I would be like, please don't rely on people who will do the work for you, because then you're not part of the entire thing and you need to learn how to do it, because this is something that you will utilize for other applications as well, even if you're just applying for your master's. But if you want to do like a PhD later on, but if you want to apply for a fellowship, but if you want to apply for like an exchange program, if you just learn how to figure out these applications once, I feel like that's something that you can sort of take with you even after this is done. So yeah, that's how we assist. Um, I did have some slides on the visa, but I don't think that visa is very relevant right now because we're talking about the next session. So I'll just like not discuss that. For now, let me go through the questions. We have a lot of them. I already mentioned that for data science or AI, there's that one scholarship that's called SECAI, SECAI, but that's pretty much the only scholarship. I already discussed personal statement and recommendation letter. Personal statement um, is a very, very long topic. We need to have like a different session for that, but we can do another session for letter of motivation later. Bioinformatics or life sciences programs, I don't think so. Is it appropriate time to apply to universities for acceptance letter for that scholarship? Only if you're applying for a PhD, because right now, if you want to apply for winter 2027 intake, the programs are going to open somewhere in January 2027. So you can't apply for them anyways right now. Um, Scholarships for environmental sciences are part of EPOS. Education, there is only one education program that's also under EPOS. There are no other education programs. Physiotherapist, I'm aware of that scholarship. PhD in environmental sciences, again, you can apply for that under two streams. One is DAAD-EPOS and one is DAAD PhD. So that PhD is like the umbrella term for all PhD applications under that. But like I mentioned, कि अगर आपको specific कुछ नहीं समझ आ रहा ना कि वो link कहाँ है और कैसे होगा, like, you can email us. You can email us at hello@Ramsha's Consulting. But please, like I mentioned, आप पूरा अपना profile explain करो, आपको क्या चाहिए मेरे से वो भी बताओ. और किस साल जाना है, कब जाना है, जितना आप अपने बारे में बता सकते हो, please email में बताओ ताकि I can actually understand what you need from me. LO, as I already discussed, for design field, you do not need to secure admission first. you need to apply for the scholarship first because, like I mentioned, for all of these master's programs now, the program opens much later. The scholarship deadline is in September, and the program is going to open somewhere in January. So you have to apply for the program later, but you do need to list the programs. So you do need to shortlist the three programs that you will possibly be applying for. You need to put them in your DAAD application scholarship. You need to apply for the scholarship. Once that is done, and even if you don't hear from the scholarship yet, you haven't heard from them yet, you need to then apply for the admission. How can one prepare for programs in advance? I mean, you have all of the information. You know what programs are going to open. You know what the letter of motivation requires. You know the kind of profile that they will take. You know what the scholarship is all about. तो आप पढ़ना शुरू कर दें कि क्या क्या चाहिए अपना प्रोफाइल देखना शुरू कर दें उसमें क्या बेहतर करना है आइल्स के लिए देख लें जीआरई जीमैट चाहिए वो देना शुरू कर दें there's no limit to the number of programs you can apply to on the DAAD, but like her program के अंदर limit है. For example, DAAD Helmut Schmidt में you can apply to two programs, DAAD-EPOS में you can apply to three programs, DAAD Architecture, DAAD Fine Arts, DAAD PhD में आप तीन programs per scholarship apply करते हो. Are there any programs related to environment and sustainable development? Yes, EPOS has a lot of programs in environment and development. You can check them out on the link. But yeah, we will share the recording. Is the IELTS exam mandatory or a medium of instruction English sufficient? The medium of instruction is not sufficient for Germany. For most universities, they do not accept it. Again, I don't want to like say a conclusive statement and say, oh, it's not gonna get accepted. It could be that some universities accept it, but like you have to then take your chances, and that's not something that I recommend. Like I said, कि थोड़ा सा invest करना पड़ेगा, which is why it's important that you give the IELTS. Yes, health related courses in Germany under DAAD are in English. I will be sharing the recording with you, and I've just Googled the links so you can actually find the links yourself. If you're applying for DAAD via Unisys, does the 75 euro fee apply? Yes. So even अगर आप DAAD के थ्रू अप्लाई कर रहे हो बट जिस प्रोग्राम में आप अप्लाई कर रहे हो उसके लिए एडमिशन आपने लेना है और एडमिशन यूनिसिस के थ्रू हो रहा है तो 75 यूरो फी आपको देनी पड़ेगी. If you book a one-on-one session, but you come prepared in the session with essays, LOR, we tend to not review the documents in like the essays in the one-on-one session. The reason for that is that will give you a very narrow perspective. Like I can look at it once and like मैं आपको 40 मिनट में क्या ही बता दूंगी उस ऐसे के बारे में. जब हम कुछ रिव्यू करते हैं तो एक तो ये कि एक बंदा रिव्यू नहीं करता मल्टीपल लोग रिव्यू करते हैं. उसमें से एक का ज्यादा एक्सपीरियंस होगा उस प्रोजेक्ट के साथ उस स्कॉलरशिप के साथ वो आपको अपनी इंसाइट देगा फिर जो दूसरा बंदा पढ़ रहा है वो साथ कुछ रिसर्च भी कर रहा होगा उस बारे में भी आपको बताएगा कि भाई ये भी इस प्रोग्राम के लिए रेलिवेंट है आप इस बारे में भी लिखो. सो अगर आप एक सामने दिखा दो कि जी मैंने ये लिखा है तो ठीक है उसमें कुछ बुलेट पॉइंट्स आपको मिल जाएंगे but for like a proper review where you want to improve that statement or essay I recommend like doing a proper package जिसमें आप क्वेश्चंस भी पूछ सको हम बैक एंड फोर्थ कर सकें और हमें हमारे पास एटलीस्ट 3-4 हफ्ते हों उस पे काम करने के लिए. There are no law scholarships from what I remember. And law is very particular in Germany because like for most law programs, like not international programs, you might need German. And the corporate law programs, they're usually not funded. There is one program that's funded. Let me open that. Yeah, this one, Masters of Law and Intellectual Property and Competition Law. This one is funded. No other program that I know of. The waiting time is very different for most programs. Like you might be waiting for like 6-7 months before you hear back from them. अच्छा तो देखें अगर आप स्कॉलरशिप के लिए अप्लाई कर रहे हैं तो आपको ब्लॉक्ड अकाउंट नहीं चाहिए. ब्लॉक्ड अकाउंट का कोई लेना देना नहीं है क्योंकि फिर दाद आपको वो लेटर देगा जिसके ऊपर लिखा होगा कि इतने इतने पैसे हम इस स्टूडेंट को देंगे और हम रिस्पॉन्सिबल हैं इसकी फाइनेंशियल अपकीप के लिए. तो फिर यू डोंट नीड एनी ब्लॉक्ड अकाउंट इफ यू गेट अ स्कॉलरशिप. तो स्कॉलरशिप का फायदा ही क्या अगर आपने वो फिर भी खुद ही करना है. Media related program, there is a media related program in DAAD-EPOS. Towards the end of the list there is a program. Yeah, international media studies. The deadline was in March though, but it's a really good program. I really recommend it. It's also in the same city where I'm based and I think it's such amazing opportunity. Hmm. Mm. Where are the rest of the questions? If your work is directly with like if your JD is volunteer work, then you can sort of say that, okay, I'm already engaged with the community enough. You might not need like pure volunteer experience, but I mean, it wouldn't hurt. IELTS skill retake is usually not applicable for that for any scholarship. You need to do the whole thing again. April consultation slot is only for one-on-one interviews. It's not for essay reviews. However, if you have an essay already prepared, please email me. Mention that you attended the session, and maybe we can offer a discount. You can avail a fully funded scholarship with zero work experience, but like I said, the chances are gonna vary, like because you'll be competing with people who have so much more experience than you. And what will you talk about in your application? You'll talk about your internships, your volunteer work, the societies that you were a part of, but you wouldn't be bringing a lot of like quantifiable achievements with regards to work. So that will naturally diminish your profile a little bit. So I would recommend getting some work experience and then applying, but also not applying because you can learn a lot by applying right now. There aren't any programs in medical science from what I know. You can apply for more than one scholarship. Work portfolio is required for architecture and fine arts programs, not for other programs. There is no alternative for blocked account except scholarship. You need to do the blocked account. You can get a sponsorship. So if you know somebody in Germany who earns enough and works and can will be willing to write you a letter that they will sponsor you, then it can work. But again, that's a little tricky. Yes, volunteer work between summer break does count, but if it was a mandatory requirement of your program, then you didn't do the volunteer work. It was like a requirement of the program. So then that's not volunteer work. I cannot answer that if you need the recommendation from line manager or CEO, like you need to decide who knows your work best and will be able to give you the best letter. There is no program in food science. Psychology programs are also not covered, unfortunately, from what I remember. If you want an understanding on like how to go about certain programs based on your profile, like I said, I would recommend booking a one-on-one session, and that's good. If you're learning German, that's a plus, but it's not gonna be a deciding factor for do you deserve the scholarship or not, because if German is not a criteria that they're gonna judge you on, so like it's not gonna add much to the profile. It will help you later on, but yeah. I don't know what you mean, Ahmed Afzal. Blocked account is an embassy requirement. Of course, it's an embassy requirement, but if you have a scholarship, then you don't need to show a blocked account. Then what's the scholarship for? Can you share the link of this PDF? I will. Visa tends to take a long time if you're self-financed. So if you're doing your process yourself, visa will take a longer time. So you need to plan for that in advance. If you have a DAAD scholarship, you don't have anything to worry about because then you get to like sort of get a bit of a fast track. तो आपका काम जल्दी हो जाता है. I did my BS in English, have experience in development sector, volunteer experience. What do you think about EPOS PhD? Again, that is nearly not enough information for me to be able to tell you if you should even apply for a PhD. मैं इससे आपको कुछ भी नहीं बता सकती. No, for PhD, it's not a requirement that you need to approach the supervisor first. बेसिकली प्रोग्राम पे डिपेंड करता है. कुछ प्रोग्राम में लिखा होता है कि आपको पहले सुपरवाइजर का अप्रूवल चाहिए और कुछ में लिखा होता है कि आप पहले प्रोग्राम में अप्लाई करोगे. अगर आप नेक्स्ट स्टेज पे गए फिर आपने सुपरवाइजर्स को रीच आउट करना. सो इट डिपेंड्स ऑन द प्रोग्राम. मिनिमम ड्यूरेशन नहीं है वॉलंटियर वर्क की. 6 months, 2 months, 3 months, it's good enough. Yes, your IELTS needs to be valid when the program is starting. अगर आपका IELTS अभी एक्सपायर हो रहा है 2 महीने में, 3 महीने में, 4 महीने में, तो आपका IELTS नहीं काम हो सकेगा. Your IELTS needs to be valid for September 2027. अगर वो September 2027 में वैलिड है. अगर वो September 2027 से पहले एक्सपायर हो रहा है तो फिर वो उस साल के प्रोग्राम के लिए नहीं यूज हो सकता. Are there any opportunities for second class honors, lower division? I mean, you can still apply, but DAAD focuses very heavily on, good academic background. So that will be important. I think I've answered all of the questions. We're also above time for now. So I'll send the recording in a few days. I'll also send the PDF for you to look at. I know that we weren't able to cover everything, but again, I did not want the session to be super long. I wanted कि एक घंटे में हम इसको खत्म कर सके. But like I said, if you have any particular queries, things that you want to discuss about your profile, please email us here. And please mention as much detail as you can about yourself. आप अपनी CV भी भेजें, आप अपना background भी बताएं. अगर आप PhD करना चाह रहे हैं, आपका research topic क्या है, आप वो भी बताएं. We will help you. I don't want to give this impression that आपको अगर हमसे बात करनी है, हमसे help चाहिए, तो आप सिर्फ पैसे दे के help ले सकते हैं. आप help ले सकते हैं अगर आपको खुद clarity है कि आपको help किस में चाहिए. अगर आप मेरे पास आएंगे कि मुझे कुछ पता ही नहीं है, मुझे help कर दें, तो फिर मैं आपको यही कहूंगी कि आप सेशन बुक कराएं, ताकि मैं समझूं पहले कि आप क्या करना चाहते हैं, और फिर मैं आपको हेल्प करूं. बट अगर आपको पता है आपको किस चीज में हेल्प चाहिए, आप पूछें, वी विल हेल्प यू. एंड इफ यू फील लाइक आपको ज्यादा डेडिकेटेड हेल्प चाहिए, तो वी हैव ऑलरेडी डिस्क्राइब्ड आवर पैकेजेस. यू कैन रीच आउट. एंड बेस्ट ऑफ लक. आई होप कि आप लोगों में से जो भी लोग अप्लाई करना चाह रहे हैं जर्मनी में किसी भी स्कॉलरशिप में, you're successful in that. And if there's any way that we can help you, please do reach out. Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.